Welcome back. You're with Weekend Dialogue. Tonight in our studios, we have with us the Director General of the Employers Federation of Ceylon, Mr. Ravi Peiris, joining us. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming over. And it's nice to see you, Mr. Ravi Peiris, after 1 year.
Exactly, after 1 year.
Exactly. So, 85 years of the EFC, and I think you all have been the changing face of industrial relations during, I think, close to 9 decades now. What has been the progress? What is your work so far? How is the situation?
Yes, I think we are proud to say that EFC has evolved during these 85 years. If we go back to our birth or the formation of our organization, I think the circumstances surrounding it was very much different to what it is today. It was formed at a time when Sri Lanka was under the British, and the British employers were having a tough time with the local workers, and they thought that they should have a separate organization to handle industrial disputes, and that's how it came to be. But over the years, we have noticed that the reactionary approach that our organization had ultimately converted to a more proactive approach. And this is what we want to spread among our employers. The message that we want to spread is that we need to be proactive, and that is the essence of having good industry relations at any workplace. So, if you look at the early stages, we would have had a very few members, 20, 30, 40, 100, 150. The time I joined, we had around 150 to 200 members, and today we have 600 members in our federation. There has been tremendous growth, and growth not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of maturity, where employers are now convinced that they need to be sensitive to the requirements of employees. And my mind goes back in our records. We have the statement of our first chairman, who said at the first AGM, annual general meeting of our federation, and if I can recollect the words, it goes like this. Mr. S.P. Haley was our first chairman, an Englishman, and he said, "Labour nowadays cannot be fought, but we still have a few diehards who think otherwise, but yet they are gradually fading away." I think these very, very wise words are in fact relevant even today. There are still a few who think otherwise, but they are gradually fading away.
Fading out. But then what really have been your challenges, Mr. Ravi Peiris? I think you've been involved here throughout for some time now.
Well, our challenges has been in terms of interacting with the policy makers. We have said that we need an environment, an enabling environment to do business. In terms of generating employment, if you look at the government's policy framework, the Horizon Development Framework, the labour policy has 4 policy directives, and one is to promote flexible labour laws. The other is to generate employment. These two go hand in hand. You can't have a rigid labour law framework and expect investors to come running to our countries. So this has to be implemented. What we have in our policy statements need to be translated into positive action. That is what we require, and that is the message that we give the government and the labour authorities from time to time. We come up with various suggestions in relation to making an enabling environment for employers to generate employment, to basically have flexible working hours, flexible work arrangements, because the body of our labour law is still very, very old, because these laws are archaic. It doesn't suit our times. Today's world of work is changing. It has changed and is changing right now. So
last year too, if I may
yes.
interrupt, last year too, you were, during this very same discussion here in our studios, you emphasized on the fact that we need to go in for flexi hours if we are to bring in investments. And that is when the symposium, when you said think out of the box, thinking out of the box, if I'm not mistaken, you all were advocating to create this environment.
Yes.
But what really happened 1 year on?
Well, working out of the box was our theme, you're quite correct. And some other reforms that we suggested was in relation to a 5-day week. And I must say, with a lot of persistence on our side, we have been able to get some administrative relaxation, where employers who need to work that 5-day week with the consent of the workers are able to do that without making any excessive payments.
Right.
So that's, I think, a considerable step forward, but it is not the end. We need a change in the legislation to that effect, and we hope that it will come soon. So there has been some progress, but not enough.
Right. And I think talking about the symposium, this year too you're having the symposium. What will be the
Our
topic?
theme is this time breaking barriers and building workplaces.
Right.
The reason we thought of it was also considering the fact that we are celebrating our 85th anniversary. And the EFC has always stood for, as I said, building enterprise relations.
Right.
That is the essence of having a good workplace. So we thought of this with this topic of looking at what are the barriers that we have in our workplaces, and also to give an opportunity for some of our members to showcase themselves as people who have identified barriers and who have successfully overcome them. And we have a separate session which is basically for companies to come forward and tell their stories of how they overcame these barriers and what were the strategies they adopted.
Right. And if how is this symposium organized? Is it the same way as you all did last year?
Yeah, there will be
In
panel
what?
discussions, and we are very happy to have the Secretary General and CEO of the International Organization of Employers in Geneva, who will be making the keynote address.
Right.
He's coming all the way from Geneva.
This should be very valuable for those.
Of course, and we are also having some overseas resource persons who will be panelists, and also, of course, our industry chief executives from various industries who will join us in the panel discussions. And a very interesting panel discussion will be on this topic of the dilemma of the equitable wage. You know, the wage issue is very sensitive. It's being kept very confidential. And there are various misconceptions, misunderstandings on this issue.
Right.
And what is exactly an equitable wage? It's a very tough call. But I hope there will be a lot of good discussion generated on this. And we are also getting for our panel the chairman of the National Pay Commission, who will give a government perspective to this whole topic. So I think all in all, we are getting speakers who are not only conversant with the topic, but are also representatives of various stakeholders.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And this year too, your is it invitation based, or can all our maybe our viewers who are interested, can they join the symposium?
Yes, it is basically you have to be a participant, a paid participant, and the fee is 14,500 for 1.5 days, with lunch on both days. Plus, we also have a special event, which is on the evening of the first day. If I may say a little about that.
Sure.
And this is an event where we are going to launch a new employer brand for Sri Lanka. It is basically a standard. I'm not saying what we will call it because it is not yet launched.
An employer brand.
Employer brand, which will basically be on some of the labor standards, which employers can subscribe to it. Of course, they will go through an audit.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of launching this is to enhance the credibility and the visibility of Sri Lankan business. Because we believe that, especially in Asia, Sri Lanka is a country where employers comply with the labor laws, and our labor standards are much, much higher than some of our countries, our neighboring countries. And there have been attempts by various people to show that Sri Lanka is not adhering to labor standards, which is not the case. So basically what we thought as an employers organization is to have these standards, and we are not the ones who are going to audit them.
Right.
It will be totally independent audit that the companies will have to go through. And this is something more than just complying with the laws.
Okay.
If you are doing something more, this is an opportunity for you to showcase.
So I think that is something to look forward to, and maybe I don't have the right to ask you much questions because it's not launched yet. Yes. I'll look forward for the launch. Yes. And maybe invite you once again to our studios to talk extensively on this new standards, the employer brand that you're intending to launch. But thank you very much, Mr. Peiris, for joining us in our studios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We had with us Mr. Ravi Peiris, the Director General of the Employers Federation of Ceylon, joining us here in our studios on Weekend Dialogue. Join us after this break for Biz Roundup.